In the shadowy attic of a forgotten family home, Elias Thorne discovers a glowing human skull that hums with an otherworldly melody, whispering forbidden secrets from cosmic voids, unleashing ancient horrors that blur the line between reality and madness, pulling him into a Gothic nightmare where stars bleed and shadows sing. Chapter 1. The Whisper in the Attic. In the small town of Eldridge, tucked away in the hills where fog rolled in like a blanket every night, lived a young man named Elias Thorne. He was not rich or famous, but he had a sharp mind and a love for old things. His house was an old wooden place, creaky and full of dust, passed down from his grandpa who had died years ago. Grandpa had been a collector of strange items from far-off lands, things like dusty books and odd stones. Elias spent his days fixing clocks in the town square, but at night he would poke around the attic, hoping to find something exciting. One rainy evening, as thunder grumbled outside like an angry beast, Elias climbed the narrow stairs to the attic. The air up there was thick and musty, smelling of old paper and forgotten dreams. He carried a lantern that flickered with a warm yellow light, casting long shadows on the walls. Boxes were piled high, covered in cobwebs that stuck to his fingers like sticky threads. He pushed aside a trunk full of yellowed letters and spotted something new, or rather, something old that he had never noticed before. It was a small wooden box, carved with strange symbols that looked like twisted stars and swirling lines. His heart beat faster as he picked it up. The box felt cold, even though the attic was stuffy. With careful hands, Elias opened the lid. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded red cloth, was a human skull. It was not like the ones in books. This one had a faint glow, as if moonlight was trapped inside the bone. The eye sockets were deep and empty, staring back at him like bottomless wells. But what made him freeze was the tiny crack along the jaw, almost like a mouth ready to speak. He reached out and touched it, and a shiver ran down his spine. The skull was smooth, polished by time, but it hummed under his fingers, a low vibration that he could feel in his bones. Elias sat back on his heels, staring at the skull. Why had Grandpa hidden this? He remembered stories Grandpa told by the fire, tales of sailors who found cursed treasures in distant seas, or explorers who dug up bones that whispered secrets. But those were just stories to scare kids, right? Elias shook his head and closed the box, but as he did, a faint sound escaped, like a sigh, or maybe the start of a song. He told himself it was the wind whistling through the cracks in the roof. That night, sleep did not come easy. Elias tossed in his bed, the rain pattering on the window like fingers tapping. In his dreams, he saw vast spaces, endless black skies filled with stars that winked like eyes, and in the center, the skull floated, its jaw moving slowly, singing a melody that was both beautiful and terrifying. The song spoke of worlds beyond the stars, places where time bent and twisted, where beings older than the earth watched and waited. He woke up sweating, the tune still echoing in his head. The next morning, Elias tried to forget about the skull. He went to work, fixing a broken pocket watch for Mrs. Harrow down the street, but his mind kept drifting back to the attic.
What
if the skull was worth money? Or what if it held some clue to Grandpa's past? After lunch, he hurried home and climbed the stairs again. The box was right where he left it. He opened it, and this time, the skull seemed to gleam brighter in the daylight, filtering through the small window. He picked it up, turning it over in his hands. There were markings etched into the bone, tiny symbols that matched the ones on the box. Elias had seen similar things in Grandpa's books, ancient runes from lost civilizations. He whispered to himself, "What are you?" And then, as if in answer, the skull vibrated again, stronger this time. A soft hum filled the air, growing into a whisper. It was not words at first, just sounds like wind through trees or waves on a shore. But slowly, it formed into a tune, a haunting melody that made his skin prickle. Elias dropped the skull back into the box, his hands shaking. Had he imagined it? He slammed the lid shut and shoved the box into a corner, covering it with an old blanket, but the song lingered in his ears, pulling at him like a hook. That evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky red, he sat by the fire, trying to read a book. The words blurred on the page. All he could think about was the skull. Curiosity won over fear. He fetched the box and placed it on the kitchen table. Opening it once more, he stared at the skull. "Sing," he said softly. Nothing happened at first. Then, a faint glow appeared in the eye sockets, like distant stars. The jaw creaked open slightly, and the song began. It was low and sweet, like a lullaby from another world. But as it grew, images flooded Elias's mind, vast oceans of space, swirling galaxies, and shapes that defied understanding, tentacles and eyes writhing in the dark. He snapped out of it, gasping for breath. The song stopped, but the visions stayed, burned into his thoughts. What was this thing? A relic from space, a cursed object from some Gothic tale. Elias wrapped the skull in cloth and hid it under his bed, vowing to bury it in the morning. But sleep brought more dreams, deeper this time. He dreamed of a ship sailing through stars, not water, crewed by shadows. The skull was the captain, singing commands that bent reality. When dawn broke, Elias felt changed. His eyes were tired, but his mind buzzed with energy. He dug a hole in the backyard, under the old oak tree, and dropped the box in. Dirt covered it. He heard the song, again, muffled but clear, calling to him. He ran inside, locking the door, but the whisper followed, seeping through the walls. Days passed, and Elias tried to live normally. He laughed with friends at the tavern, fixed more clocks, but the song never left. It played in his head during quiet moments, revealing bits of knowledge, names of forgotten gods, secrets of the universe. One night, unable to resist, he dug up the box. The skull was waiting, its glow stronger. "You cannot hide from the truth," it seemed to say in its melody. Elias placed it on his desk and listened. The song told of cosmic horrors, beings from beyond the veil who sang to lure souls. It spoke of Grandpa finding the skull in a crashed meteor years ago, and how it drove him mad with its revelations. Elias felt a pull, a desire to know more, even as fear gripped his heart. As weeks turned, the skull became his secret companion. He would sit in the attic, lantern low, letting the song wash over him. It painted pictures of Gothic castles floating in space, guarded by spectral figures. Elias's friends noticed he grew pale, his eyes distant. "What's wrong?" they asked. He smiled and said nothing, but inside, the cosmic void called. One stormy night, the song changed. It grew louder, urgent, warning of something coming, a rift in the sky, where stars would bleed. Elias looked out the window and saw the clouds swirl unnaturally. Lightning flashed, revealing shapes in the dark, vast and hungry. He clutched the skull, its vibration syncing with his heartbeat. The Gothic elements blended with the cosmic ancient curses, meeting interstellar dread. Elias knew he was on the edge of something huge, a story unfolding that would change everything. The song delved deeper, revealing layers of history. Grandpa had not died naturally. The skull's influence had pulled him into madness, making him wander into the woods one night, never to return. Elias found old journals hidden in the attic, pages filled with frantic writing about the singing bone from the stars. Grandpa described how the skull sang of elder things, beings that slumbered in the depths of space, waiting to awaken. Elias read by candlelight, the skull beside him, humming approval. The journals spoke of rituals to silence the song, but Grandpa had failed, drawn instead to its power. Elias felt the same pull. The knowledge was intoxicating, like wine that burned the throat but warmed the soul. Outside, the town slept, unaware, but Elias saw signs: birds falling silent, shadows lengthening unnaturally. The cosmic influence seeped in, Gothic in its mystery, terrifying in its scope. He experimented, holding the skull under moonlight. The song swelled, filling the room with ethereal light. Visions came faster, planets crumbling, voids swallowing light, and a chorus of skulls singing in unison across the universe. Elias wrote his own notes, simple words capturing the awe. It sings of ends and beginnings, of dust we are, and to dust we return, but in between, the stars watch. Friends knocked on his door, worried. He turned them away, lost in the melody. The skull became his world, its Gothic curves hiding cosmic truths. As the chapter built, Elias realized the skull chose him, a vessel for its message. The whisper in the attic had become a roar in his soul. Deeper into the night, the song revealed a map, constellations not seen on Earth, pointing to hidden places. Elias sketched them, hands trembling. The Gothic atmosphere thickened, dust motes dancing like ghosts. He ventured outside, skull in hand, following the tune. The woods whispered back, trees bending as if listening. A clearing appeared, stones arranged in a circle, ancient and weathered. placing the skull in the center. The song exploded, shaking the ground. Lights in the sky flickered, stars aligning. Elias fell to his knees, overwhelmed. The cosmic Gothic tale had just begun, but already he was entangled. The visions continued, vast libraries in space, books written in light, guarded by hooded figures with skulls for faces. They sang in harmony, a choir of the damned. Elias returned home, exhausted but alive with purpose. The skull rested on his pillow, its song a lullaby now, promising more. Days blended, Elias isolating further. He ate little, slept less, sustained by the melody's energy. One evening, a knock, the town doctor, sent by friends. Elias hid the skull, feigning illness. "Just tired," he said. But the doctor saw the wild eyes, the pale skin. Alone again, Elias confronted the skull. "What do you want?" The song answered. "Knowledge, to share the truth of the universe's indifference, the Gothic horror of existence." It sang of black holes as mouths, devouring light, and nebulae as veils hiding elder gods. Elias absorbed it all, his mind expanding, compressing vast ideas into simple thoughts. The attic became his sanctuary, walls covered in drawings, swirling voids, singing skulls. A letter arrived from a distant relative, mentioning Grandpa's travels. It hinted at a society of seekers, those who hunted cosmic relics. Elias replied, seeking more, but the skull warned in its tune. Danger lurks for those who know. Thunderstorms increased, lightning striking close, as if the sky responded to the song. Elias watched from the window, skull in lap, feeling the connection grow. The chapter deepened, revealing the skull's origin, forged in a dying star, imbued with the last breath of an ancient race, sent to Earth as a messenger. Its song was their legacy, a warning and a curse. Elias felt honored yet terrified, a pawn in a cosmic game. Nights lengthened, days dimmed, the Gothic fog thickening. He dreamed of flying through space, skull guiding, singing paths through asteroids. Waking, he yearned for more. Friends gathered outside, calling his name. He ignored them, lost in the whisper. The song evolved, teaching languages of stars, words that bent air. Elias spoke them, feeling power surge, but with power came fear. Shadows moved on their own, whispers not from the skull. Gothic elements emerged, ghostly apparitions in mirrors, reflecting cosmic voids. Elias shattered the mirror, but the visions persisted. He barricaded the door. Skull his only company. The tune comforted, promising enlightenment. As words piled, the story wove tighter, compressing lore into narrative. Elias discovered a hidden compartment in the box, a note from Grandpa. "Beware the song, it sings of ends." Too late, Elias was hooked. The night before the chapter's close, a comet streaked the sky, the song sinking with its trail. Elias knew the next phase began, but for now, the whisper in the attic held him captive, a Gothic cosmic embrace. Chapter 2. Shadows of the Forgotten Tomb. Elias Thorne's world had shrunk to the attic and the skull that sang. The town of Eldridge carried on outside, its cobblestone streets bustling with market chatter and the clanging of church bells, but Elias barely noticed. His days blurred, each one tethered to the haunting melody that spilled from the skull. It was no longer just a sound, it was a pulse, a rhythm that wove itself into his thoughts, his breath, his very being. The attic, with its slanted beams and dusty air, felt like a cathedral now, sacred and heavy with secrets. But the song had grown restless, its notes sharper, urging Elias towards something new, something buried deeper than the oak tree in his backyard. One chilly morning, as frost painted the windows, Elias sat cross-legged on the attic floor, the skull cradled in his hands. Its glow was brighter now, a sickly green that pulsed like a heartbeat. The symbols etched into its bone seemed to writhe under his gaze, as if alive. He traced them with a trembling finger, and the song shifted, no longer a lullaby but a command. Words formed in his mind, not his own, but clear as day. "Seek the forgotten tomb." Elias froze. A tomb in Eldritch. The town was old, built on stories of settlers and strange rituals, but he'd never heard of any tomb. Yet the skull's voice was certain, pulling him like a rope. He dug through Grandpa's journals, stacked in a corner like forgotten relics. The pages were brittle, inked with frantic scribbles about stars, curses, and a place of rest hidden beyond the town's edge. One entry stood out, written in shaky handwriting. The tomb lies where the river bends, beneath the shadow of the weeping stones. It holds the key to the song's truth, but beware its shadows guard it well. Elias's heart raced. The river was just outside Eldritch, winding through the woods where kids dared each other to go at night. The weeping stones, he vaguely recalled, jagged rocks near the riverbank, moss-covered and eerie, shaped like hunched figures. He didn't want to go. The skull's song was enough. Its visions of cosmic voids and Gothic spires thrilled him, even as they scared him. But the melody pressed harder, filling his dreams with images of a crumbling stone door, sealed with the same symbols as the skull. In one dream, he stood before it, and the door creaked open, revealing a darkness that swallowed light. Hands reached out skeletal, glowing faintly like the skull. He woke, gasping, the song louder than ever, demanding he move. Elias packed a bag with a flashlight, a knife, and Grandpa's journal. He wrapped the skull in a cloth and tucked it under his coat, its hum vibrating against his chest. The October air was sharp as he slipped out at dusk, the sky bruised purple. Eldridge felt different now, its quaint houses and flickering lanterns hiding something sinister. The townsfolk didn't notice him, too busy with their evening routines, but Elias felt eyes watching from the shadows. Maybe the skulls, maybe something else. The woods were a mile out, where the river curved like a snake. The path was overgrown, brambles snagging his boots. The skull's song grew louder with every step, guiding him like a compass. Night fell fast, and the trees seemed to lean in, their branches clawing at the sky. Elias's flashlight beam danced across roots and rocks, but the darkness felt alive, pressing against the light. He reached the riverbank, where the water gurgled softly, reflecting the moon like a shattered mirror. There, in a clearing, stood the weeping stones, 5 jagged boulders, their surfaces slick with moss, arranged in a half circle. They looked like mourners frozen in time, their shapes vaguely human. Elias set the skull on the ground, its glow illuminating the stones. The song swelled, a chorus now, layered with voices that weren't human. He searched for a sign of the tomb, his hands brushing the cold rocks. One stone had a carving, faint but unmistakable, the same twisted star from the skull's box. He pressed it, and the ground trembled. A slab of earth shifted, revealing stone steps descending into darkness. The tomb. His stomach twisted. Every instinct screamed to run, but the skull's song held him, promising answers. He grabbed the skull and descended, the air growing colder with each step. The stairs were uneven, worn by time, and the walls were carved with more symbols, eyes and jagged lines that seemed to pulse. The flashlight flickered, as if the tomb rejected its light. At the bottom, a stone door loomed, etched with a massive symbol, a star encircled by thorns, like a Gothic crown. Elias hesitated, the skull heavy in his hands. The song was deafening now, vibrating the walls. He touched the door, and it groaned open, revealing a chamber. The air was thick, smelling of earth, and something metallic, like blood. His flashlight swept across the room, revealing stone walls lined with alcoves. In each alcove sat a skull, identical to his, their empty sockets glowing faintly. There were dozens, maybe hundreds, their hums joining his skull's song in a chilling harmony. In the center of the chamber stood a stone altar, stained dark with age or something worse. On it lay a book, bound in leather that looked disturbingly like skin. Elias approached, the skull's song urging him forward. The book's cover bore the same star and thorn symbol. He opened it, and the pages crackled, revealing text in a language he didn't know yet somehow understood. It spoke of a brotherhood, keepers of the skulls, who guarded cosmic secrets. They built this tomb to hide the skulls from the world, for their song could wake the watchers beyond the veil. Elias's breath caught. The watchers, the beings from his dreams, vast and formless, lurking in the void. The song changed, warning him. Shadows moved in the corners, not cast by his light. They slithered along the walls, taking shape stall, hooded figures with no faces, only glowing eyes like the skulls. Elias clutched the skull tighter, its warmth his only comfort. The shadows whispered, their voices overlapping with the song. You should not be here. The song is not yours. He stumbled back, heart pounding. The shadows grew closer, their forms flickering between human and something else, tentacled, jagged, wrong. He ran to the altar, grabbing the book. The shadows lunged, but the skull's song flared, a high-pitched wail that made the shadows recoil. Elias bolted for the stairs, the book under one arm, the skull in the other. The tomb shook, dust falling from the ceiling. The shadows chased, their whispers now screams, promising pain if he took the relics. He climbed faster, legs burning, until he burst into the night air. The stone door slammed shut behind him, sealing the tomb. Elias collapsed by the river, gasping. The skull was silent now, its glow dim. The book felt heavy, its pages whispering faintly, as if alive. He hid both in his bag and staggered home, the woods unnaturally quiet. Back in the attic, he locked the door and spread the book's pages under the lantern's light. The text described the skull's origins, fragments of a star that fell years ago, carrying the voices of an ancient race. They sang to guide their master's return, but their power corrupted all who listened too long. Elias's dreams that night were worse. He saw the tomb again, but now it floated in a void, surrounded by stars that bled red. The shadows were there, chanting his name, their hands reaching through the dark. He woke screaming, the skull beside him, glowing faintly. The book lay open to a new page, one he hadn't seen, a ritual to silence the skulls, requiring blood and starlight. Grandpa's handwriting was scrawled in the margin, tried and failed. The shadows see all. Days passed, and Elias barely left the attic. He read the book obsessively, decoding its warnings. The skulls were linked, a network across the earth, each singing to awaken the watchers. His skull was one of many, but it had chosen him, just as it had chosen Grandpa. The shadows haunted his sleep, their forms clearer, now cloaked figures with skulls for faces, their eyes burning like comets. Eldridge began to change. The river ran sluggish, its water dark. Townsfolk whispered of strange lights in the woods, of voices in the wind. Elias avoided their questions, his face gaunt, his eyes wild. He knew the skull's song was leaking, spreading its influence. One night, he tried the ritual from the book, pricking his finger and letting blood drip onto the skull under the moonlight. The song faltered, then roared back, angrier. The shadows appeared in his room, their whispers clear. You cannot stop the song. Elias realized he was in too deep. The tomb had marked him, its shadows trailing him even in daylight. He hid the skull and book in the attic, but their pull remained. The song was in his blood now, a Gothic curse woven with cosmic dread. He stood at the attic window, staring at the stars, wondering if the watchers were already awake, listening. The chapter closed with Elias alone, the skull's glow lighting his face. The book opened to a prophecy. When the skulls sing as one, the veil will tear, and the watchers will walk outside. The river whispered, echoing the skull's tune, as shadows gathered in the fog. Chapter 3, Echoes from the Stars. Elias Thorne could no longer ignore the pull of the skull and the ancient book he had stolen from the forgotten tomb. The attic in his old house felt smaller now, the walls closing in like the jaws of some cosmic beast. Shadows lingered in the corners even during the day, whispers of the hooded figures from the tomb echoing in his mind. The skull sat on his desk, its glow a constant reminder, pulsing with a rhythm that matched the distant thunder rolling over Eldritch. The book lay open beside it, its pages filled with warnings about the Watcher's vast beings from beyond the stars, waiting to cross into the world through rifts torn by the skull's song. Elias's hands shook as he turned the pages, his eyes burning from lack of sleep. The song had become part of him, a melody that played endlessly, revealing fragments of knowledge too vast for a simple clock fixer to grasp. One evening, as the sun dipped below the hills and painted the sky in streaks of blood red, Elias noticed a change in the song. It was softer, almost pleading, weaving images of the night sky into his thoughts, stars that weren't just lights, but eyes blinking back at him. He stepped outside for the first time in days, the cool air biting his skin. The town was quiet, lanterns flickering in windows like wary sentinels. Elias walked to the edge of the woods, the skull tucked under his arm, wrapped in cloth. The book had mentioned echoes from the stars, signals that the skulls could catch. Like a radio tuning into a far-off station, he found a clearing, the same one where the tomb's entrance had been, now sealed tight under the earth. Laying the skull on a flat stone, he waited. The moon rose full and bright, casting a silver glow over everything. The skull hummed, its light syncing with the stars overhead. Then, the echoes came, not sounds at first, but feelings. A vast emptiness washed over Elias, like standing on the edge of a cliff overlooking an endless sea. Visions flooded in, swirling, nebulae, planets crumbling into dust, and shapes moving through the void-long tentacles unfurling like banners in the wind, eyes that glowed with ancient hunger. The song grew, layering with new voices, distant and alien, speaking in tongues that twisted his thoughts. These were the echoes, messages from the Watchers, bouncing across space to reach the skulls on Earth. Elias fell to his knees, clutching his head. The echoes told stories of creation and destruction, how the universe was born from a single note, a song that shattered into countless pieces. The skulls were shards of that original melody, sent to worlds like Earth to prepare for the Watchers' arrival. But the book had warned that listening too closely invited madness, a Gothic unraveling of the mind where reality blurred into nightmare. Elias saw glimpses of other listeners and ancient priests in crumbling temples, sailors lost at sea, all driven insane by the echoes. One vision showed Grandpa, young and strong, standing in this same clearing, the skull in his hands, tears streaming down his face, as the stars whispered secrets he couldn't bear. Back in the attic, Elias scribbled notes in a new journal, his handwriting messy like Grandpa's. The echoes are calls. He wrote invitations to join the chorus. The skull's glow brightened with each word, as if approving, but the shadows from the tomb followed him now, slinking along the walls. There, hooded forms whispering doubts. "You are not worthy," they hissed. Elias ignored them, diving deeper into the book. It described a way to amplify the echoes using mirrors under starlight to reflect the signals, turning the attic into a receiver for cosmic broadcasts. He gathered old mirrors from around the house, dusty and cracked, propping them against the walls. That night, with the windows open to the starry sky, he placed the skull in the center. The song began, and the mirrors caught its light, bouncing it back in endless loops. The echoes roared in, louder than before, filling the room with a cacophony of voices. Elias saw the Watchers clearly now, colossal entities, bodies made of swirling gas and shadow, drifting between galaxies. They sang back their melody, a deep rumble that shook the house. The ground trembled, and outside, dogs howled in the town. Elias laughed, a wild sound, as knowledge poured in. He learned of black holes as gateways, wormholes as shortcuts through the fabric of space, and how the Watchers used them to spy on distant worlds. But with the wonder came horror visions of planets devoured, civilizations wiped out when the Watchers grew bored. The Gothic element twisted in, the Watchers wore crowns of thorns made from shattered stars, their thrones built from the bones of fallen gods. Elias's mind reeled, compressing these vast ideas into simple fears. They were coming, and the skulls were their beacons. The next day, Elias ventured into Eldridge, his steps unsteady. The town felt wrong, the sky too vast, the stars hidden. But watching, he visited the library, a small building with creaky floors and shelves of forgotten books. The librarian, old Miss Clara, eyed him suspiciously. "You look ill, Elias. Been up in that attic too much." He mumbled something about researched and buried himself in astronomy tomes, cross-referencing with the ancient book, stars aligned in patterns matching the symbols on the skull, constellations that ancient cultures feared as omens. Back home, the echoes continued, even without the mirrors. They whispered during meals, sang in his sleep. Dreams took him soaring, through space, past comets and asteroids, the skull his guide. He awoke with new insights. The Watchers fed on emotions, drawing strength from fear and awe. That's why the song was addictive. It stirred the soul, fattening it for the feast. Friends came knocking again, their voices muffled through the door. "Elias, open up, we're worried." He shouted them away, afraid the echoes would leak out and infect them. But one night, the shadows attacked. As Elias listened to the skull, the hooded figures materialized, their hands grasping at him. "The echoes are not for mortals," they growled. He swung the book at them, and they dissolved into smoke, but not before leaving scratches on his arms deep, burning like starfire. Elias bandaged his wounds and delved deeper. The book revealed a counter-ritual. To block the echoes, one must sing back, matching the melody with human words. He tried, his voice cracking, but the skull responded, its song softening. For a moment, peace came, the echoes fading. But then they surged stronger, punishing his defiance. Visions of doom, Eldridge swallowed by a void, stars raining down like fire. Isolation grew. Elias boarded the windows, but starlight seeped through cracks, carrying echoes. He ate scraps, his body thinning, but his mind expanded, holding compressed knowledge of universes. A storm hit, lightning cracking the sky. The skull sang louder, sinking with thunder. Elias saw a rift opening overhead, a tier in reality where watchers peered through. He screamed, but the song drowned him. The chapter built, Elias teetering on madness. The echoes promised power to command stars, bend time, but at what cost? He found a hidden page in the book, a map to another skull, buried in distant lands, but the shadows warned against it. Nights blurred, echoes revealing personal truths. Grandpa's fate pulled into the void, his soul joining the chorus. Elias wept, but listened on, hooked. The Gothic cosmic blend intensified, attic like a crypt, stars as gravestones. Finally, a clear message: prepare for the alignment. Stars would line up soon, amplifying the song. Elias knew chapter's end neared, but the story spiraled on. Chapter 4. The Curse of the Singing Bone. In the dim light of a fading sun, the small town of Eldridge sat like a forgotten dream on the edge of a vast, dark forest. The houses were old, with roofs that sagged under the weight of years, and streets that wound like snakes through the mist. People here spoke in low voices, afraid that loud words might wake something bad from the shadows. Eldridge was a place where secrets hid in every corner, and the wind carried whispers of old tales that made folks shiver. Young Elias Thorne lived on the outskirts, in a creaky house with his grandmother, who everyone called Old Nan. She was bent with age, her skin like wrinkled paper, but her eyes burned bright with stories from long ago. Elias was just 16, tall and thin, with messy brown hair and a curious mind that often got him into trouble. He loved to explore the woods, picking up odd stones or watching birds flit through the trees, but Old Nan always warned him, "Stay away from the deep parts, boy. There's things in there that don't belong to our world." One crisp autumn evening, as leaves turned red like blood, Elias found something strange. He was wandering near the old boneyard, where folks buried their dead under twisted oaks. The ground was soft from recent rain, and his boots sank into mud. When he pulled it free, he saw a glint of white. Digging with his hands, he uncovered a bone, not just any bone, but one that looked like it came from a human arm. It was smooth, almost shiny, and carved with tiny marks that swirled like stars in the night sky. Elias picked it up, feeling a chill run up his spine. The bone hummed softly, like a far-off song. He shook his head, thinking it was just the wind. But as he held it closer, the hum grew louder, turning into a melody that tugged at his heart. It was sad and beautiful, like the cry of a lost child. He stuffed it into his pocket and hurried home, the song echoing in his mind. That night, as the moon rose high, Old Nan sat by the fire, knitting a scarf. Elias showed her the bone. Her face went pale, and she dropped her needles. "Where did you find this, lad?" she whispered, her voice shaking. "In the boneyard, near the big oak," he said, excited. "It sings, Nan. Listen." He held it out, and sure enough, the bone began to hum again, filling the room with its eerie tune. Old Nan crossed herself and backed away. "That's the singing bone," she said, "cursed thing from the old days. They say it belonged to a witch who danced with shadows. She was burned at the stake, but her bone kept singing, calling forth bad spirits." Elias laughed, thinking it was just a story to scare kids. "It's just a bone, Nan. Maybe I can sell it in town." "No," she snapped, grabbing his arm. "You must bury it back. The curse brings madness and worse things from beyond the stars." But Elias didn't listen. He kept the bone under his pillow, and that night, dreams came like storms. He saw vast emptiness, endless black with pinpricks of light that weren't stars but eyes watching him. Whispers filled his ears, speaking in tongues he didn't know, promising secrets if he just listened closer. The next morning, Elias woke with a headache, the song still ringing in his head. He went to school, a small building where kids learned reading and math from stern Miss Harrow, but he couldn't focus. The bone's tune drowned out her words. During break, he told his friend Lila about it. Lila was brave, with short black hair and freckles, always ready for adventure. "Show me," she said, eyes wide. They sneaked to the woods after school, and Elias pulled out the bone. It sang louder now, the melody twisting like vines. Lila touched it, and her face changed. "It feels alive," she murmured. As the sun dipped low, they heard rustling in the bushes. A deer stepped out, but its eyes were wrong, glowing red, like embers. It stared at them, then bolted away. Elias felt uneasy, but the song pulled him deeper into the forest. That evening, back home, old Nan was waiting. "You've stirred it up, boy. The curse is on you now." She told him the full tale over supper of bread and stew. Long ago, the witch named Eloan had lived in the manor on the Hiltha Old Manor, now ruined and overgrown. She performed rituals at midnight, calling two beings from the void. One night, under a blood moon, she sang a song that cracked the sky, letting in horrors that drove folks mad. The townspeople caught her, burned her, but one bone survived, singing her final curse. Elias shivered, but the bone's pull was strong. That night, he dreamed again, this time of the manor. He saw himself walking its halls, hearing whispers from walls that bled ink like shadows. Days passed, and strange things happened in Eldritch. Dogs howled at nothing, milk soured overnight, and folks reported seeing shapes in the mistall, thin figures with too many arms. Elias kept the bone hidden, but its song grew, filling his thoughts. He started drawing the marks from the bone on paper, symbols that looked like twisted constellations. Leela noticed him changing. "You're acting weird, Elias. Your eyes look distant, like you're seeing things we can't." "I am," he admitted. "Visions of endless void, black space where stars scream." She frowned. "We should throw it away." But he couldn't. The bone promised knowledge, hidden truths about the world. One foggy afternoon, they decided to visit the old manor. It loomed on the hill, windows like empty eyes, vines choking the stone walls. The door creaked open with a push, dust swirling like ghosts. Inside, the air was thick, smelling of rot and old books. They explored rooms with faded paintings of stern faces, furniture covered in sheets like shrouds. In the basement, they found a hidden door leading to a library, shelves upon shelves of ancient tomes, bound in leather that felt like skin. "The hidden library of secrets," Lila whispered, awe in her voice. Elias felt the bone vibrate in his pocket. He pulled it out, and it sang louder, books trembling on shelves. One fell open, pages yellowed, words in a strange script that he somehow understood. It spoke of ancient beings, whispers from beyond, who waited in the fractures of reality. As they read, the room grew cold. Shadows lengthened, forming shapes that whispered names. Elias, Lila. They ran, hearts pounding, but the manor seemed alive, doors slamming, floors tilting. Outside, night fell fast. A blood moon rose, red as fresh wound, bathing the world in crimson light. Revelations hit Elias like waves. The bone was a key, unlocking doors to madness. Back in town, folks gathered, murmuring about the curse awakened. Old Nan met them at the door. "You've seen it now," the beings whisper, promising power, but they bring descent into madness. Elias nodded, fear gnawing at him, but the song called, urging him to return. That night, alone in his room, he held the bone. It sang of eternity, a final song that echoed through his soul. Visions flooded, endless void, where reality fractured, and ancient beings stirred. He knew this was just the start. The curse had him, and the horrors were coming. Word count, 1024. Wait, the request was for 5,000 words, but to compress knowledge. "I'll expand with more details while keeping simple words." Elias tossed in bed, the bone song a lullaby of dread. He dreamed of swimming in black seas, where creatures with tentacles and eyes like voids reached for him. They spoke without words, planting seeds of knowledge in his mind, secrets of the universe. How stars were born from screams, how time bent like rubber. Waking sweat-soaked, he stared at the ceiling. Cracks there looked like the symbols on the bone. He traced them with his finger, feeling a pull, as if the house itself was part of the curse. Morning brought rain, pounding like drums. Elias skipped school, drawn back to the woods. The bone led him, humming directions. He found a clearing he hadn't seen before, ringed with stones that glowed faintly. In the center, a fracture, a tear in the air, shimmering like heat waves, but cold to touch. Touching it, visions hit, endless void, where nothing and everything existed. He saw beings, ancient and vast, whispering plans to break into our world. Shaking, he ran home. Old Nan was brewing tea, her hands steady despite fear. "The fracture in reality," she said. "It's opening because of you." She told more stories, how Eloan had found the bone first, from a fallen star. It sang to her, teaching rituals that summoned the beings. Under midnight moons, she danced in the manor, blood on her hands, calling them forth. Elias listened, the knowledge compressing in his brain like packed snow. He felt smarter, but scared. The simple boy was changing, thoughts deeper than before. Lila came over, rain dripping from her coat. I dreamed too, she said, of libraries with books that scream. They decided to research. In the town library, a small room with dusty shelves, they found old journals. One spoke of the manor, built by a mad lord who heard whispers. He hid secrets in the library, tomes from forbidden places. As they read, a librarian watched, eyes narrow. Best leave that alone, he grumbled. Bad luck. But they couldn't stop. The bone sang softly in Elias's pocket, urging on. That night, under the blood moon's glow, they sneaked to the manor again. The air hummed with energy, rituals long past echoing. In the library, books flew open, pages turning themselves. One book revealed the whispers of ancient beings. They come from the void, feeding on madness. Elias read aloud, voice trembling. The words compressed vast ideas, how these beings were older than time, shaping worlds with thoughts, breaking minds. To enter, shadows danced, forming shapes. A voice whispered, "Join us." Shadows danced, forming shapes. A voice whispered, "Join us." They fled, but the descent had begun. Elias's thoughts twisted, reality fracturing in his mind. Back home, old Nan waited with a lantern. "The final song approaches," she said. "You must fight it." But the curse gripped tight, promising wonders amid horrors. Days blended, Elias lost in visions. He saw the void's heart, where eternity sang a last tune. Friends noticed his pale face, distant eyes. Lila tried to help. "We can bury it." He shook his head. Too late. The beings call. One storm night, the fracture grew. Townfolk saw lights in the woods, heard songs in the wind. Elias went alone, bone in hand. The clearing pulsed, tear wider. He stepped close, whispers loud. "Enter," they said. "See the truth." He hesitated, heart racing. The curse pulled, but fear pushed back. Then, a crack, reality split, void peeking through. He screamed, madness descending. The town of Eldritch had always been a place of mystery, but now it felt alive with dread. People locked doors early, children stayed inside, and even the birds seemed quiet. Elias felt the change in his bones, the singing bones curse spreading like ink in water. He spent days in his room, drawing maps of the void from his dreams. Stars that weren't stars, planets of flesh, rivers of shadow. The knowledge compressed, vast cosmos in simple lines. Old Nan brought soup, her face lined with worry. "Fight it, boy. Don't let the madness take you." But the whispers were sweet, promising power to change the world. "You can fix everything," they said. "Just listen to the song." Lila visited daily, bringing books from school. "We can find a way to break the curse." They pored over tales of Gothic horrors, old manors with ghosts, cosmic beings from stars. Words simple, but ideas deep, compressed like diamonds from coal. One evening, as thunder rumbled, they found a clue in an old diary. The singing bone must be silenced with a ritual under the blood moon. The next blood moon was soon. They planned, go to the manor, find the hidden library, perform the rite. But the beings knew. Visions intensified, descent into madness, where friends turned to monsters. Sky rained blood. Elias's mind fractured, memories mixing with illusions. Was Lila real, or a whisper in disguise? They set out at midnight, lanterns flickering. The manor loomed, doors opened like a mouth. Inside, the air thick, whispers loud. "Welcome," they said. In the library, books glowed, secrets revealing. The ancient beings wait in the void, hungry for souls. The ritual: place the bone on an altar, chant words from the tome, under moonlight. As they started, the room shook. Shadows rose, forming tentacles' eyes. Elias chanted, voice steady. The bones sang louder, fighting back. Lila held his hand, fear in eyes. "Don't stop." The fracture appeared, void pouring in cold, endless. Beings emerged, vast and terrible, whispering promises. Elias finished the chant. The bone cracked, song dying. Shadows screamed, retreating, but the curse lingered. Madness touched. They escaped as the manor groaned. collapsing in parts. Back home, Elias buried the bone shards. The song gone, but echoes remained. He knew this was not the end. The void called still, revelations waiting. The story had just begun, horrors unfolding. In the days that followed, Elias couldn't shake the feeling that the world had changed. The sky seemed darker, the stars brighter, as if they were watching him back. He walked the streets of Eldritch, noticing how people avoided his gaze. Rumors spread like wildfire. The boy who found the cursed bone, the one who woke the old evils. Old Nan sat by the fire every night, telling more tales to keep the darkness at bay. The midnight rituals in the old manor weren't just for show, she said. Elias called to the stars, and they answered with madness. Elias listened, the knowledge sinking in. He learned about the blood moon revelations, how the red light showed truths hidden in daylight. Under that moon, secrets came out, like worms from soil. Lila was his anchor, the one who kept him grounded. They met in the woods, away from prying eyes, talking about what they saw. Those beings, she said, they're from places we can't imagine, endless voids where time doesn't exist. He nodded, the ideas compressed in his mind. Vast spaces, ancient horrors, fractures in the fabric of everything. One day, they found an old map in Nan's attic, yellowed and torn. It showed the manor, the library, and lines leading to other places, hidden spots in the forest where rituals happened. We have to check it out, Elias said, excitement mixing with fear. They followed the map, through thick trees and thorny bushes. The air grew cold, the ground soft like it was breathing. They reached a stone circle, moss-covered, with symbols like the bones. In the center, a pit, dark and deep. Peering in, Elias heard whispers again. Come closer, they said. See the descent. He backed away, heart pounding. It's a gate, he whispered. To the void. Lila grabbed his arm. Don't look too long. It'll pull you in. They ran back, but the visions followed. That night, Elias dreamed of falling into the pit, tumbling through blackness, hearing the final song of eternity, a melody. That ended all things. Waking, he knew the curse wasn't broken. The bone was gone, but its echo lived in him. Townfolk started seeing things too. A farmer found his cows dead, eyes wide with terror. A child spoke in strange tongues, whispering of ancient beings. The fracture was spreading, reality cracking. Like glass. Elias and Lila decided to find the full story. They returned to the library in the manor, careful now. Lanterns bright, books revealed more. The hidden library held tomes from lost civilizations, words about cosmic horrors that drove men mad. One book, bound in black, spoke of the beings. They whisper from the stars, waiting for the fracture to widen. Then, the descent begins, madness consuming all. The knowledge compressed, short sentences packing big ideas. Beings old as time, hungry for minds, using songs to enter as they read. The room darkened. Moonlight turned red, blood moon rising. Unexpected revelations came. Visions of the town's past, how Iloan wasn't the first. Others had heard the song, performed rituals, opened doors, shadows moved, beings trying to break through. Elias closed the book. We have to stop it, but how? The tome said only the final song could seal it. But singing it meant madness. They left, minds racing with plans. Back in town, chaos brewed. People gathered at the church, praying against the curse. Old Nan joined them. The boy has the key, she said, but it might kill him. Elias felt the weight, the horror growing. The chapter ends with him standing at the forest edge, hearing the whispers, ready for what comes next. Chapter 5. Midnight rituals in the old manor. The moon hung low over Eldritch, casting long shadows that danced like ghosts across the twisted paths leading to the old manor. Elias Thorne couldn't sleep. The echoes of the singing bones still rang in his ears, even though he had buried its broken pieces deep in the earth. But the curse didn't die easily. It lingered, whispering promises of more secrets, pulling him toward the hill where the manor stood, like a silent giant, its walls cracked, and covered in ivy that looked like veins pulsing with dark life. Elias sat by his window, staring at the distant shape. The town below was quiet, folks tucked in their beds, unaware of the fractures growing in the world. Old Nan had warned him again that evening, her voice low and rough, like gravel. The rituals start at midnight. Boy, that's when the veil thins, and the beings from the void peek through. Stay away from that place. But the pull was too strong. Visions flashed in his mind, endless black spaces filled with eyes that blinked slowly, watching, waiting. He grabbed his coat, slipped out the door, and headed up the hill. The wind howled, carrying faint chants that sounded like old songs from forgotten times. Lila waited for him at the edge of the woods. She had dreamed too, nightmares of shadows, wrapping around her like ropes. "We have to go back," she said, her freckled face pale in the moonlight. "The library holds answers. We can't let the madness win." They walked together, hands brushing for comfort. The path was overgrown, thorns snagging at their clothes like tiny claws. The manor loomed closer, its windows dark holes that seemed to suck in light. As they neared, a clock somewhere struck 12 midnight. The air grew thick, heavy with the smell of damp stone and something sharper, like blood. The door creaked, open on its own, as if inviting them in. Inside, dust swirled in the halls, and the floors groaned under their feet. Candles flickered to life along the walls, flames blue and cold, casting eerie glows. Elias felt a chill, but the whispers urged him on deeper. They said, "See the rituals." They found the hidden door to the basement again, stairs winding down into blackness. At the bottom, the library waited, shelves bending under the weight of ancient books. But tonight, it was different. The room pulsed with energy, shadows moving, like living things. In the center, a circle of stones marked the floor, symbols carved deep, glowing faintly red. "This is where she did it," Lila whispered. "Eloan the witch. Midnight rituals to call the ancient beings." Elias nodded, knowledge from the bone compressing in his thoughts. Short bursts of truth about cosmic horrors, beings older than stars, who fed on fear and madness. He picked up a book from the shelf, its cover rough like skin. Pages turned themselves, revealing drawings of people dancing under moons, blood dripping from hands, chants that opened doors to the void. As they read, the clock ticked louder, though there was no clock in sight. Midnight stretched, time bending. The circle on the floor lit up, lines connecting like stars in a bad sky. Whispers grew into voices, chanting words that twisted the air. "They're coming," Elias said, heart racing. He felt the fracture nearby. A tear in reality, letting in cold winds from endless nothing. Lila grabbed a candle, holding it high. "We have to stop it. Find the ritual to close the door." They searched the shelves, books falling open to pages of warnings. One told of the old manor, built on a spot where a star fell long ago, cracking the earth and leaving a weak point. Lords who lived there went mad, performing rituals to gain power, but losing their minds instead. Suddenly, the chants stopped. Silence fell, heavy and wrong. Then, a figure appeared in the circular shadow shape, tall and thin, with arms that branched like trees. It had no face, just a void where eyes should be, pulling light in. Elias backed away, but the being whispered his name. "Join the dance," it said. "Sing with us." Lila screamed, dropping the candle. Flames spread, but blue and cold, not burning wood, but licking at shadows. The being reached out, tendrils wrapping around Elias's leg, cold like ice from deep space. He kicked free, grabbing Lila's hand. They ran up the stairs, but the manor twisted, halls changing, doors leading to wrong places. Whispers laughed, echoing, "You can't escape the rituals." Finally, they burst outside, gasping under the moon. But the night wasn't done. Back in town, lights flickered in windows, folks waking from bad dreams. Dogs barked madly, and in the distance, the forest rustled with unseen things. Old Nan met them at the door, her face grim. "You've seen them now." The ancient beings whisper through the fractures, promising visions but bringing dissent. Elias told her everything, words tumbling out. The knowledge compressed. Rituals at midnight opened doors. Blood moons revealed truths. Hidden libraries held keys to seal or break the world. Nan nodded, fetching an old box from under her bed. Inside, a dagger with a blade-like twisted bone, symbols etched deep. This belonged to the one who stopped Eloan before. Use it in the circle. Cut the air. Close the tear. But Elias felt doubt. The beings called to him, sweet voices in his head. Power, they promised. See the endless void. Know all. The next day, sun-weak through clouds, Elias and Lila explored the town for more clues. They visited the boneyard, where he found the singing bone. Graves looked disturbed, earth loose like something dug up. A crow watched them, eyes too smart. In the library, the town's small one, They found faded maps of the manor, showing secret rooms. One led to a chamber under the library, where rituals happened with blood and song. "We go tonight," Elias said. "End it." Lila agreed, fear in her eyes but brave heart. As dusk fell, storm clouds gathered, thunder rumbling like angry gods. They climbed the hill, wind whipping hair. The manor waited, doors wide. Inside, midnight approached. Candles lit again, guiding to the basement. The circle glowed brighter, shadows dancing. They stepped in, dagger ready. Elias chanted words from the book, voice shaking. The air split, fracture opening wide. Black void with twinkling lights that were eyes. Beings poured through, whispers, loud as screams. Revelations, they cried, joined the madness. Lila held the book, reading counterspells, symbols on the floor twisted, fighting back. Elias raised the dagger, slashing at the tear. Sparks flew, like stars dying. The beings howled, pulling back, but one touched him, cold hand on his mind. Visions flooded, endless void, where worlds floated like bubbles, popping into nothing. Ancient beings feasted on souls, singing eternal songs. He staggered, madness creeping. Colors bled, walls melted. Lila pulled him out, dagger glowing hot. The fracture shrank, but didn't close fully. They fled, rain pouring now, turning paths to mud. Home, soaked and scared, old Nan bandaged cuts. It's not over. The rituals call more each midnight. Elias lay awake, hearing whispers. The curse deepened, pulling him toward descent. Days blurred, town gripped by fear. Folk saw shapes at night, heard chants. Milk turned black, crops withered. Elias dreamed of the void every night, swimming in blackness, beings teaching secrets. How reality was thin paper, easy to tear. How stars whispered names of the dead. Lila stayed close, their bonds strong amid horror. "We fight together," she said. They returned to the manor often, learning more from the library. Books spoke of blood moon revelations, when truths shone clear. The next blood moon neared, promising answers, or doom. One evening, exploring upper floors, they found a room with mirrors cracked, reflecting wrong images, faces twisted, eyes void. On the center, an altar stained red. Here, a Lowan spilled blood, calling beings. Touching it, Elias saw past. Midnight dance, shadows swirling, song fracturing sky. He pulled away, head aching with compressed knowledge. Cosmic beings from beyond, hungry for entry, using human weakness. Thunder crashed outside, lightning flashing Gothic spires. They heard footsteps, not theirs. A figure in the hall, cloaked, face hidden. "Who's there?" Lila called. The figure turned, eyes glowing. "The whispers sent me. Join the rituals." It lunged, but they ran, mirrors shattering behind. Outside, the town stirred. Folks gathered, torches lit, marching to the manor. "Burn it," they yelled. "End the curse." But Elias knew fire wouldn't stop cosmic horrors. He and Lila hid in woods, watching flames rise. The manor burned, but screams echoed not human, but from the void. Ashes settled, but the fracture remained, hidden now. Elias felt it. In his bones, the beings whispered still, planning next move. The rituals weren't done. They just moved deeper, into minds and dreams. Madness descended slowly, like fog creeping. He looked at Lila, determination set. "We find the hidden library's secrets elsewhere." The fight goes on. The chapter closed with thunder. Blood moon rising soon. Revelations waiting in the dark. Chapter 6. Visions of endless void. The ashes of the old manor still smoked on the hill, a black scar against the grey sky. Elias Thorne stood at his window, watching the wind scatter the remains like dark snow. The town of Eldridge buzzed with talk. Folk said the fire had ended the curse, chased away the whispers. But Elias knew better. The beings from beyond didn't burn so easily. They hid in the cracks of the world, waiting, whispering still. That night, sleep came hard. When it did, visions hit like waves crashing on rocks. Elias floated in endless void, black space stretching forever. No up or down, no light but faint glows from distant horrors. Eyes watched him, thousands, blinking slowly, knowing his name. They showed him things, stars exploding in silence, planets crumbling to dust, ancient beings twisting through the dark like snakes in water. He woke, gasping, sweat cold on his skin. The room spun, walls seeming to bend inward. Old Nan knocked on his door, her face lined with worry. Bad dreams again, boy. Visions, he muttered, of the void. Endless nothing, full of watchers. She nodded, sitting on his bed. The curse digs deep now. Those rituals opened your mind. The beings plant seeds there, growing madness. Elias rubbed his eyes, but the images lingered, compressed knowledge bursting in his head. Cosmic truths about the universe being a thin shell. Void pressing against it, ready to break through. Lila came over before school, her eyes tired too. I saw it last night. Black space, things moving in it. Felt like falling forever. They skipped classes, walking the woods instead. The trees looked wrong now, branches like fingers reaching for the sky. Birds watched them, heads tilted oddly. We burned the manor, Lila said, but the library's secrets are gone. Not all, Elias replied. He had saved a book, tucked in his Cotiello pages with drawings of voids and beings. This talks about visions, how they reveal the fracture. They sat on a log, reading. The book spoke in simple words, but ideas packed tight. Ancient beings lived in the void, outside time, feeding on thoughts. Visions were their way in, showing endless black to weaken minds, make folks crave the descent. As they read, the air grew still, leaves stopped rustling. Then, a hum faint, like the old singing bone. Elias looked up. In the sky, a cloud twisted, forming a shape like an eye. Run, he whispered. They bolted, but the vision chased. Trees blurred, ground tilted. Elias saw the void overlay the woods, black creeping in, stars winking where sun should be. Back home, safe for now, Old Nan brewed tea with herbs that smelled sharp, to dull the visions, she said, but they come stronger under the moon. That evening, as dusk fell, the town gathered at the church. The preacher spoke of evil spirits, but Elias knew it was more cosmic horrors, Gothic shadows from old tales, blending into real fear. After, folks whispered about strange sights, mirrors showing wrong faces, wells echoing with songs from deep below. Elias and Lila sneaked out, drawn to the manor's ruins. Smoke hung low, ground charred, but under the ash, stones glowed faintly, symbols from the rituals still there. Digging, they found a trapdoor, hidden before. It led down, deeper than the basement, into a cave-like room. Walls dripped water, air cold as space. In the center, a pool of black liquid, still as glass. The endless void, Lila breathed. Mirrored here. Elias leaned over. His reflection stared back, but eyes glowing. Whispers rose from the pool. Look deeper. See the visions. He did, unable to stop. The black pulled him in, mind tumbling into void. He saw vast emptiness, beings swimming like fish in ink, their forms shifting tentacles, wings, mouths that sang silent tunes, knowledge compressed. These beings shaped dreams, twisted reality, waited for fractures to widen. They promised power, but delivered madness. Lila yanked him back. Your eyes went blank. He shook, head full of stars, screaming. I saw them, ancient, hungry. They climbed out, sealing the door with rocks. But the visions stuck, flashing at odd times during supper. When Elias dropped his spoon, seeing void in the soup. At night, ceiling cracking to black. Days passed. Eldridge changing. Folks acted odd. A baker stared at walls, mumbling about eyes in the dark. Kids drew pictures of black spaces, full of watchers. Old Nan told stories by the fire. Long ago, a traveler came from far lands, speaking of voids he saw in dreams. He went mad, jumped into the river, singing of eternity. Elias listened, fear growing. The curse spread, like sickness in the air. One foggy morning they found a note on the door. Words, the vision's call, follow to the hidden library. But the library burned, or did it? The note had a map, leading to the forest depths. We go, Lila said. Answers, wait. The woods thickened. Path, narrow. Mist clung, whispers guiding. They reached a clearing, old stones ringed like teeth. Under one, a hole steps down to a buried room. Inside, shelves of books, dust thick, air stale. The hidden library, Elias said, moved here somehow. Torches lit with matches, flames dancing shadows. Books old as time, covers cracked. One open on a table. Visions of endless void gates to the beings. They read, pages turning fast, compressed. Lore. Voids were homes to ancients, visions their bridges to our world. To stop them, one must enter the vision, face the beings, sing the final song. But entering meant risk descent into madness, no return. As they pondered, the room shook. Dust fell, walls cracking. A fracture appeared, tear in stone, black void, peaking. Beings whispered through, "Join us, see all." Elias felt pull, stepping close. Vision swallowed him, endless black, floating free. Beings circled, showing revelations. Blood moons as signals, rituals as keys, fractures as doors. He fought back, mind screaming. Lila's voice distant, "Come back." He did, collapsing. "They're coming stronger. The void wants in." They grabbed books, fleeing as the room crumbled, stones falling like rain. Back in town, storm brewed, lightning split sky, thunder-like beings laughing. Old Nan waited, dagger from before in hand. Use this in the vision. Cut the ties. But how? Visions weren't real, or were they? That night, under pouring rain, Elias lay awake. Whispers loud, pulling him out. He walked alone, to the ruins. The pool waited, black and deep. He dove in mind, not body. Void embraced, cold and vast. Beings swarmed, welcome to eternity. He saw their home endless, beautiful in horror. Stars as eyes, voids as hearts. Knowledge flooded, cosmic secrets. How worlds formed from nothing. How beings shaped fate. But madness crept, thoughts fracturing. He raised the dagger in vision. It appeared, slashed at beings, sparks flying. They howled, retreating. He woke by the pool, wet but alive. The fracture smaller, but eyes watched still. From shadows, Lila found him at dawn. "You went alone." "Had to. Stopped them for now." Town calmed a bit, visions fading for others. But Elias carried them, burden heavy. The chapter ended with him staring at stars, seeing void between. Whispers, soft but persistent. The horror built Gothic dread in every corner. Cosmic vastness pressing close. Chapter 7. The Hidden Library of Secrets. The fog rolled thick over Eldritch, wrapping the town in a blanket of grey that muffled sounds and hid shapes in the mist. Elias Thorne walked the narrow streets, his boots splashing in puddles that reflected the dull sky like broken mirrors. Days had passed since the visions of the endless void nearly swallowed him whole, but the whispers never stopped. They tickled his ears, promising more secrets buried deep, knowledge that could fix the fractures or shatter everything. Old Nan had grown quieter, her stories shorter, as if the curse stole her words. She sat by the fire each night, staring into flames that danced like trapped spirits. "The hidden library calls," she murmured one evening, her voice cracked like dry leaves. "Not the one in the manor, boy. The real one, lost in shadows." Elias leaned close, heart thumping. "Where, Nan? Tell me." She shook her head, eyes distant. "In the old tales, it's a place between worlds, full of books that breathe and pages that bleed. But seek it, and madness follows." Lila waited for him outside, her coat damp from the fog. She had changed Tupela with shadows under her eyes like bruises. "I found something," she said, pulling a crumpled paper from her pocket. It was a page torn from one of the saved books, yellow and brittle, with a sketch of a door hidden in a tree trunk, symbols swirling around it like smoke. The library, Elias breathed, the knowledge compressed in his mind, ancient tomes holding cosmic truths, Gothic horrors written in ink from stars, secrets that could seal the beings away, or let them flood in. They set out at dawn, before the town woke. The forest loomed, trees tall and twisted, branches like arms warning them back. Mist clung to leaves, dripping cold drops that felt like tears. Birds watched from perches, their calls sharp and wrong, as if mocking the pair. Deeper they went, path fading into underbrush, thorns, scratched skin, drawing tiny beads of blood that the ground seemed to drink. Elias felt the pull, whispers guiding like invisible strings. "This way," they said. To the secrets. Lila clutched the page. The sketch shows a big oak with a split trunk. Like lightning hit it. They found it after hours, a massive tree scarred, black, split down the middle like a wound. In the gap, a door wooden, carved with runes that glowed faintly when Elias touched them. He pushed, and it swung open with a groan that echoed through the woods. Steps led down, steep and slick, into earth that smelled of rot and old paper. At the bottom, torches flickered to life on walls, flames green and unsteady. The room stretched far, shelves upon shelves curving into darkness, books stacked high, some pulsing like hearts. The hidden library of secrets, Lila whispered, awe mixing with fear. Dust motes danced in the light, forming shapes that looked like tiny beings. Elias stepped forward, hand brushing his spine. The book hummed, pages flipping open on their own. Words crawled across paper, telling of ancient beings born in the void's cradle, shaping worlds with thoughts alone. Compressed knowledge hit him, cosmic entities older than light, whispering through fractures, feeding on human curiosity. They explored, hours blending as time twisted in the library. One section held tomes on blood moons, revelations spilling. Like blood, under red light, truths emerged, showing paths to power or ruin. Another shelf groaned under Gothic tales manners, haunted by shadows that walked, witches singing curses that echoed eternity. Lila found a book bound in what felt like skin. "Listen," she said, reading aloud. "The library hides in folds of reality, guarded by keepers who were once men, now twisted by secrets." As she spoke, a noise echoed footsteps, slow and heavy. From the shadows, a figure emerged, tall, cloaked, face hidden in hood. Eyes gleamed yellow, like cats in night. "Who seeks the secrets?" it rasped, voice like pages tearing. Elias stood, firm, though knees shook. "We do, to stop the curse, the beings." The keeper laughed, dry and hollow. "Secrets don't stop, they consume." It waved a hand, and books flew open, pages whirling in air. Visions flashed, endless voids swirling, rituals at midnight calling forth horrors. Fractures widening like cracks in ice, knowledge compressed. The library was a nexus, doors to other places, where ancient beings waited to enter through minds. Weak with wonder, Lila grabbed Elias's arm. "We need the book on sealing fractures." The keeper pointed to a high shelf, ladder appearing from nowhere. Elias climbed, wood creaking, heart pounding. The book was heavy, cover black as void, title etched in silver, whispers of closure. But as he pulled it, the room shook, shadows lengthened, forming claws. "Thieves," the keeper hissed, form shifting arms, elongating, fingers like branches. They ran, book clutched tight, through twisting aisles that changed paths. Books snapped at heels like jaws, pages slicing air. Out the door, up steps, slamming it shut. The tree sealed, bark knitting over like skin healing. Back in fog-shrouded woods, they panted. "What was that?" Lila asked. "Guardian," Elias said, "twisted by secrets." They hurried home, book hidden under coat. Old Nan waited, tea steaming. "You found it," she said, not a question. Elias nodded, opening the book. Pages glowed, words shifting. It spoke of a ritual, under blood moon, in a circle of bones. Chant words to seal fractures, but risk descent into madness. Compressed law. Beings feared the seal, would fight with visions, whispers turning to screams. That night, storms raged, lightning cracking sky like fractures. Elias dreamed of the library, endless shelves leading to voids, books screaming as beings tore through pages. Waking, he found marks on arm symbols from the book, etched in skin like tattoos. Lila came, seeing them. "It's marking you." Town buzzed with new fears, folks vanishing in mist. Found later babbling of secrets too big for minds. They studied the book days on end, learning chants, gathering items, bones from yard, herbs from Nan's garden, a dagger sharp as truth. But whispers grew louder, beings angry. Visions hit during day. Elias saw void in mirrors. Lila heard songs in wind. One eve, they returned to woods, seeking more from library. Door opened easier, as if waiting. Inside, keeper gone, but air heavy. Deeper aisles revealed horrors, books on descent into madness, drawings of men turning to shadows, minds fracturing like glass, a tome on ancient beings, vast forms in void, whispering plans to consume worlds, using humans as doors, knowledge packed tight, cosmic horror blended with Gothic dread, manners as traps, libraries as lures. Suddenly, fracture opened in floor, black tendril snaking out. It grabbed Lila's leg, pulling her down. Elias slashed with dagger, severing it. Black ichor sprayed, burning like acid. They fled again, but tendril left mark on Lilavane's black underskin. Home, none brewed potion. The void touches her now. Lila weakened, eyes glazing with visions. "I see secrets," she murmured. "Endless knowledge, but it hurts." Elias vowed to save her, diving into book. Ritual needed 3. Seeker, Anchor, guardian, him, Lila, Nan, blood, moon neared, sky tinting red at edges. Town descended into chaos. Fights broke out. Folks raving in streets, seeing beings in corners. Elias and Leela hid in Nan's house, planning. We do it at the old manor ruins, he said. Where fracture's strongest. Nan nodded. But beings will come full force. Night of blood moon. Moon hung huge, red as wound. They trekked hill, wind howling curses. Ruins smoked still, ground cracked. They drew circle with bones, placed book center. Chants began, words twisting tongues. Air thickened, shadows swirling. Fractures opened, voids peaking. Beings emerged, tall, shifting, eyes countless. Whispers roared. Stop, secrets are ours. Visions assaulted, endless voids swallowing town. Madness raining down. Elias held firm, dagger raised. Lila anchored, hand in his, though weak, non-guarded. Herbs burning toward. Beings lunged, but circle held. Chants peaked, book glowing hot. Fractures shrank. Beings screaming retreat, but one broke through. Touching Elias, madness flooded, secrets overwhelming. Cosmic truths crushing mind. He saw all birth of universe, death of stars, beings, hunger, eternal. Lila pulled him back, chant finishing, fractures sealed. Beings gone for now. They collapsed, moon fading, but secrets lingered in minds. Libraries call faint, but there. Elias knew more chapters waited, horrors unfolding. Chapter 8. Blood Moon Revelations. The air in Eldritch grew heavy, like a storm waiting to break. The blood moon was coming, its red glow already creeping into the edges of the night sky, painting clouds like wounds. Elias Thorne felt it in his bones. The curse of the singing bone wasn't gone, only quiet, lurking like a snake under a rock. The whispers had softened since the ritual in the manor's ruins, but they still slipped into his dreams, promising secrets that burned his mind. The hidden library of secrets had given them a way to fight, but the cost was high, and Elias could feel madness nibbling at the edges of his thoughts. Lila was worse. The black mark on her leg, left by the void's tendril, spread like ink under her skin. She moved slower now, her freckled face pale, eyes glassy with visions she wouldn't share. They show me things, she whispered one morning, sitting on Elias's porch. Stars that scream, places where light dies. Old Nan watched them. From the doorway, her hands twisting a rag. The blood moon brings revelations, truths you can't unsee, she said. Be careful, or you'll lose yourselves. Elias clutched the book from the library, its pages heavy with words that shifted when he blinked. It spoke of the blood moon as a time when the veil between worlds thinned, letting ancient beings push closer. The ritual to seal the fracture forever needed blood, bone, and a song, one that could either save Eldridge or shatter it into the void. The town was unraveling. Folks who once laughed off the old tales now locked doors at dusk, whispering of shadows in the fog. A farmer found his field carved with symbols, like the ones on the singing bone. A girl at school drew pictures of eyes watching from the sky, her hands shaking as she cried. The curse was spreading, a sickness no doctor could cure. Elias and Lila decided to act before the moon rose full. They needed more from the hidden library, hidden in the forest's heart. The book hinted at a second chamber, deeper where the oldest secrets slept. Answers, to stop the beings for good. They set out at dawn, fog curling around their ankles like ghostly hands. The woods felt alive, trees leaning closer, branches snapping. Without wind, Elias carried the dagger, its blade etched with runes that glowed faintly when he gripped it tight. Lila held the book, her fingers tracing its cover as if it whispered to her too. The split oak stood waiting, its door easier to find now, as if the forest wanted them inside. The steps down were slicker, the air colder, smelling of damp earth, and something sour, like fear. Torches flared green again, lighting the library's endless shelves. But this time, a new path opened, a tunnel at the back, carved with symbols that pulsed like heartbeats. They followed it, footsteps echoing. The tunnel sloped down, walls tightening, air growing thick. At its end, a chamber glowed with faint red light, like the blood moon itself. Shelves here were older, books crumbling, some oozing black liquid that hissed on the stone floor. This is it, Elias said, voice low, the deepest secrets. They searched, hands trembling. One book, bound in what looked like bone, fell. opened to a page titled Blood Moon Revelations. It told of the moon's power. Under its light, truths became clear, but lies burned away. The beings used it to tempt, showing visions of power, but the ritual could turn their strength against them. Compressed knowledge hit Elias. The beings were fragments of a greater force, a cosmic hunger born before stars. The blood moon was their signal, a time to break through fractures. To stop them, 3 must stand: one to sing, one to bleed, one to anchor under the moon's peak, in a circle of bones. But the book warned, the singer might not return, lost to the void's pull. Leela's voice shook. "I'll sing, the mark's already in me." "No," Elias snapped. "I found the bone. It's my curse." They argued, whispers growing louder, urging them to choose. The chamber rumbled, dust falling. A fracture cracked the wall, black void peeking through, eyes glinting inside. A keeper appeared, not the cloaked figure from before, but worse. Its body was wrong, limbs too long, head a shifting mass of shadows. "Secrets are not yours," it hissed, voice like glass breaking. Elias swung the dagger, blade sparking against the keeper's arm. It screamed, retreating into shadows. But the fracture widened, cold wind rushing out. They grabbed the book and ran, tunnel twisting, walls closing in. Books snapped at them, pages cutting like knives. They burst into the main library, then up to the forest, slamming the door. Back in Eldridge, the sky darkened, moon rising early, red as blood. Townsfolk gathered in the square, faces pale, some chanting prayers, others muttering nonsense. The curse was in them too. Visions, spreading like fire. Old Nan met them at the house, her eyes sharp. "You found the ritual." Elias nodded, showing the book. "But it needs a sacrifice." She frowned, pulling out a box of old bone, human, some unnameable, for the circle, the moons tonight. They prepared, hearts heavy. Elias felt the whispers stronger, tempting him with power control. The void ruled the stars. But he saw Lila's fading strength, Nan's trembling hands, and pushed the voices down at midnight. They climbed to the manor's ruins, the ground still warm from the fire. The blood moon hung huge, bathing everything in crimson. They drew the circle with bones, placing the book in the center. Elias held the dagger, Lila the chant, Nan the herbs to anchor. As they began, the air screamed. Fractures opened around the circle, void pouring out like ink. Beings emerged, all shifting, with eyes like dying stars. Their whispers became roars. "Join us, see the revelations." Visions hit hard. Elias saw worlds collapsing, skies bleeding, himself as a god among ruins. Lila clutched his hand, her voice steady, singing the chant words, old as time. Twisting like vines, the beings lunged, shadows clawing. Nan burned herbs, smoke pushing them back. Elias cut his palm, blood dripping onto bones, sealing the circles. Power, the chant peaked, moon blazing, fractures glowed, then shrank, beings screaming as they were pulled back. But one grabbed Lila, tendrils sinking into her mark. She screamed, eyes turning black. Elias slashed with the dagger, cutting the tendril. Lila fell, gasping, the mark fading but not gone. The fractures closed, silence falling. The moon dimmed, stars peeking through. They stumbled home, Lila weak, but alive. Nan whispered, "It's not over. The void remembers." Days later, Eldritch seemed calmer, but Elias saw cracks, literal ones, in walls, mirrors, ground. The beings were quiet, but waiting. He dreamed of the library, its secrets calling. Lila healed slowly, but her eyes held void's shadow. The blood moon had revealed truths. The curse was part of him now, a battle unending. Chapter 9. Whispers of Ancient Beings. The quiet town of Eldritch Hollow, nestled between thick forests and jagged hills, lived a man named Elias Thorne. He was a simple bookkeeper, tall and thin, with grey hair that fell over his tired eyes. The town was old, its streets lined with crumbling stone houses that seemed to lean in on each other like old friends sharing secrets. Fog often rolled in from the nearby sea, wrapping everything in a cold, damp blanket. Elias had lived there his whole life, in a small house at the edge of the woods, where the trees whispered in the wind. But lately, those whispers felt different. Not like the rustle of leaves, but something deeper, like voices from a dream he could not quite remember. Elias woke one morning to the sound of rain pattering against his window. The sky was dark, even though it was past dawn. He sat up in bed, rubbing his eyes, and listened. There it was, again, a faint murmur, like words, spoken from far away. He shook his head, thinking it was just the storm playing tricks. But as he dressed and made his way downstairs, the sound grew clearer. It came from the walls, or maybe the floor. Ancient beings, ... double quotes, the whispers said, soft and slow. Elias froze, his heart pounding. He had never heard anything like it before. The house was silent otherwise, except for the creak of old wood. He stepped into the kitchen, where a single candle flickered on the table. The flame danced wildly, as if scared by an unseen breath. Elias poured himself a cup of cold tea, his hands shaking. Outside, the rain fell harder, turning the dirt paths into mud. He thought about his late wife, Clara, who had died years ago. In a fever, she used to say the woods held old stories, tales of things that lived before people. Elias had laughed at her then, but now he wondered. The whispers came again, louder this time. We wait. In the dark. They echoed in his mind, making his head hurt. Elias decided to go into town, hoping the noise of people would drown out the strange sounds. He pulled on his coat and stepped out into the storm. The wind howled through the trees, bending their branches like fingers reaching out. As he walked, the whispers followed him, slipping through the rain. He passed the old church, its steeple piercing the grey sky like a broken bone. Inside, he could hear the priest chanting prayers, but even that seemed distant. The town square was empty, save for a few folks hurrying home. Mrs. Hargrove, the baker, waved from her shop door. "Bad day for a walk, Elias," she called. He nodded, but did not stop. The whispers grew insistent. "Listen, ... to the call, ... By the time he reached the library, where he worked, Elias felt uneasy. The building was ancient, with tall shelves full of dusty books. He liked it there, surrounded by stories that made sense. But today, as he opened the door, the whispers rushed in with him. They bounced off the walls, filling the quiet space. Mr. Finley, the head librarian, looked up from his desk. "You look pale, Thorne. Everything all right?" Elias forced a smile. "Just the weather," he lied. He sat at his desk, sorting through ledgers, but the words on the pages blurred. Instead, he heard tales in his head, stories of vast, endless spaces where stars died and old gods slept. As the day wore on, Elias tried to focus. He helped a young boy find a book on birds and chatted with old Mr. Jenkins about the harvest. But the whispers never stopped. They spoke of things beyond the world, of creatures that slumbered in the depths of the earth and sky. They stirred the ancient ones. Elias gripped his pen tighter, ink spilling on the paper. He wondered if he was going mad. His father had lost his mind in his later years, rambling about shadows that moved on their own. Was this the same curse? When evening came, Elias locked up the library and headed home. The rain had stopped, but the fog was thicker than ever. It swirled around his feet, hiding the path. In the distance, he heard an owl hoot, but it sounded wrong, like a laugh. The whispers grew into a chorus, many voices overlapping. "Feel the fracture, ... reality bends, ... Elias quickened his pace, his breath coming in short gasps. He reached his house and slammed the door shut, leaning against it. Inside, the air was cold, colder than outside. He lit a fire in the hearth, watching the flames crackle. But even they seemed to whisper, sparks flying up like tiny screams. That night, Elias could not sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The whispers filled the room, telling secrets of forgotten times. They spoke of beings older than the stars, vast and formless, waiting in the voids between worlds. Elias covered his ears, but the sounds were inside him now. He got up and paced the floor, his shadow long and twisted in the moonlight. Downstairs, he found an old journal that belonged to Clara. She had written about dreams, dreams of endless darkness where eyes watched from the abyss. "They call to us," she had scribbled. Elias felt a chill. Had she heard them too? As the hours passed, the whispers revealed more. They described cities sunk beneath the waves, built by things not human, towers of black stone, twisted and wrong, where the air hummed with power. Elias saw visions in his mind, great tentacles coiling around planets, mouths that sang songs of destruction. He fell to his knees, sweat beading on his forehead. "What do you want?" he whispered back. The voices paused, then answered, "To awaken, through you, ... Elias stumbled to the window, looking out at the woods. The trees swayed, but there was no wind. Shapes moved in the shadows, tall and thin, like figures from a nightmare. He blinked, and they were gone, but the fear stayed. He thought of leaving town, running far away, but where could he go? The whispers said the beings were everywhere, in the ground, in the sky, in the spaces we cannot see. That the next morning Elias woke with a start. The sun peeked through the clouds, but the air still felt heavy. He dressed quickly and went to the church. Father Merrick was there, polishing the altar. "Father, I need help," Elias said, his voice trembling. The priest looked at him kindly. "What's troubling you, my son?" Elias told him about the whispers, the visions. Father Merrick frowned. "Sounds like the old tales. This town has a history, you know. Long ago, settlers found strange stones in the hills, carved with symbols no one could read. Some say they opened doors to other places." Elias felt a spark of hope. "Can you stop it?" The priest shook his head. "Prayer might help, but if it's the ancient ones, they don't care for our gods." He gave Elias a cross to wear. "Keep faith." But as Elias left, the whispers laughed. "Faith is nothing, to us, Back at home, Elias tried to ignore them. He cooked a simple meal, bread and cheese, but it tasted like ash. The whispers grew bolder, painting pictures in his head of cosmic horrors. Beings that fed on stars, their bodies made of darkness and light, twisted together. They had names that hurt to think, names like Yog-Sothoth or Cthulhu, though Elias did not know where he learned them. The house seemed to change, walls bulging slightly, floors creaking under invisible weight. In the afternoon, a knock came at the door. It was young Sarah, the miller's daughter. She had a basket of apples. "Pa sent these," she said with a smile. Elias thanked her, but his eyes darted around. "Do you hear anything strange?" he asked. Sarah tilted her head. "Like what?" "Whispers," he said. She laughed. "Just the wind, Mr. Thorne." But as she left, Elias saw her pause, listening. Maybe she heard it too. As night fell again, the whispers turned to songs, soft melodies that made his skin crawl. They sang of eternity, of time folding in on itself. Elias sat by the fire, clutching Clara's journal. He read her words, feeling close to her. She had drawn pictures, odd shapes, like eyes with too many pupils. "They watch," she wrote, "from the fracture." "What fracture?" Elias wondered. The whispers answered. "The break in the veil, where worlds touch." He could not take it anymore. Elias grabbed a lantern and went into the woods. The trees loomed tall, their bark rough and scarred. The path was narrow, overgrown with vines. The whispers guided him, pulling him deeper. "Come, see, double quotes." Leaves crunched under his feet, and small animals scurried away. The air grew colder, the fog thicker. Soon, he found a clearing he had never seen before. In the center stood a stone, tall and black, covered in carvings, symbols that swirled and shifted when he looked at them. Elias approached, his lantern shaking. The stone hummed, vibrating the ground. The whispers exploded in his head, 1,000 voices at once. "Touch, awaken, He reached out, fingers brushing the cold surface. A shock ran through him, like lightning. Visions flooded his mind, endless space, planets crumbling, beings rising from slumber. Their eyes opened, vast and hungry. Elias screamed, falling back. The stone cracked, a thin line running down its side. Reality seemed to bend, the air rippling like water. He ran home, heart racing. The woods chased him, branches grabbing at his clothes. Inside, he barred the door, gasping for breath. The whispers were quieter now, but satisfied. "It begins, Elias curled up on the floor, tears streaming down his face. What had he done? The town felt different, the air charged with something evil. Days passed, and the whispers became part of him. He heard them in everything, the drip of water, the crack of thunder. People in town started noticing odd things. Crops wilted overnight, animals acted strange. Mrs. Hargrove found her bread, loaves molded with weird patterns. Mr. Jenkins saw lights in the sky, dancing like fireflies from hell. Elias kept to himself, reading old books from the library. He found mentions of ancient beings in forgotten texts. They were gods, or demons, from before time. They slept in hidden places, dreaming dreams that leaked into our world. The stone in the woods was a marker, a door. By touching it, he had started the awakening. One night, a storm raged fiercer than any before. Lightning split the sky, thunder shaking the house. Elias sat by the window, watching. The whispers sang louder, a hymn of doom. The fracture grows. Madness descends. He saw shapes in the clouds, faces with too many mouths. The rain pounded, but it sounded like laughter. Sarah came again, knocking frantically. "Mr. Thorne, something's wrong," she cried. Elias opened the door. Her face was pale, eyes wide. "I hear them now. The voices." He pulled her inside. "What do they say?" "They say, the end is coming. The song of eternity." Elias nodded. It was spreading. Together, they sat by the fire. Sarah trembled. "What are they?" "Old things," Elias said. "From the stars and depths. They want in." The house groaned, wind howling through cracks. Outside, the woods seemed alive, trees twisting unnaturally. As the storm peaked, a loud crack echoed. Elias looked out. The church steeple had fallen, crushed by lightning. Screams rose from the town. The whispers cheered. "Descent begins." Double quotes. Elias knew he had to stop it. But how? The book spoke of rituals, but they were dangerous. He told Sarah to stay put and grabbed his coat. "Where are you going?" she asked. "Back to the stone." The woods were a nightmare. Wind whipped branches into frenzy. Rain stung his face. The path was gone, but the whispers led him. "Come, finish it." He reached the clearing. The stone was split wide, a glowing fracture pulsing with light. Inside, he saw glimpses of other worlds, vast oceans of blackness. Creatures swimming through void. Elias approached, fear choking him. The ground shook, earth cracking. He touched the stone again, but this time pushed against the split. "Go back," he shouted. The whispers screamed in rage. Visions assaulted him, his town swallowed by darkness, people twisting into monsters. Strength failing, Elias fell. But in his mind, Clara's voice joined. "Fight them," she said. He arose, pressing harder. The fracture flickered, shrinking. The whispers weakened. "No, we rise, With a final push, the stone sealed. Silence fell. Elias collapsed, exhausted. The storm eased, rain slowing. He made his way home, finding Sarah asleep by the fire. The whispers were gone, but he knew it was not over. The beings still slumbered, waiting. The fracture was mended, but thin. In the days that followed, the town recovered. People talked of the strange storm, but forgot the details. Elias kept watch, listening for any sign. He wrote in Clara's journal, warning others. The ancient beings whispered no more, but in his dreams he heard faint echoes. The cosmic horror lingered, Gothic shadows in the hollow. But deep down Elias felt the pull. The descent into madness had begun, and the final song waited. Elias remembered his childhood in Eldritch Hollow. The town was always quiet, with stories told around fires about ghosts in the hills. Kids would dare each other to go into the woods at night, looking for the whispering stone. He had gone once, with his brother Tom. They found nothing but shadows, but Tom swore he heard voices. Tom disappeared a week later, never found. Elias thought it was just a runaway, but now he wondered. The library held more secrets. In a locked room, Mr. Finley kept rare books. Elias sneaked in one day, finding a tome bound in leather that felt like skin. Inside, drawings of stars forming shapes, constellations that were not our own. Words in a strange language, but the whispers translated them in his head. The great old ones sleep, but their dreams touch the weak. He spent hours reading, learning of cults that worshipped these beings. They performed rites under full moons, sacrificing animals to call the whispers louder. Was there a cult in town? Father Merrick's eyes had looked knowing when he spoke of the stones. Sarah returned often, sharing her fears. She dreamed of endless falling into pits where light died. "Icy eyes," she said, "thousands of them." Staring, Elias comforted her, but his own dreams were worse. He saw the beings' bodies like jelly, shifting forms, tentacles that spanned galaxies. They fed on fear, growing stronger with each thought. One evening, they heard a knock. It was Mr. Jenkins, face ashen. The animals. They're talking. He described his cows mooing words, old words that burned his ears. Elias invited him in. Together, they listened as the whispers spread through the room. The song starts. They decided to investigate the hills. Packing lanterns and food, they set out at dawn. The path was steep, rocks loose underfoot. Birds flew away as they approached, silence falling. They found more stones, a circle of them, grass dead inside. Carvings glowed faintly in the light. Touching one, visions came again. Ancient times, when these beings ruled, Earth was young, covered in seas where they swam. Humans were nothing, specks in their shadow. The fracture was a tear from their world to ours, caused by a long-ago war. They ran back, but Jenkins tripped, screaming. His leg twisted wrong, but he claimed something grabbed him. Invisible hands. He gasped. Back in town, chaos brewed. The baker's oven exploded, bread turning to dust. The mill ground stones instead of grain. People gathered in the square, muttering. Elias addressed them. "It's the old ones. We must close the door." Some laughed, others nodded. Father Merrick led prayers, but the cross bent in his hands. That night, a mob formed. They marched to the woods, torches high. The whispers mocked them. "Fools, you call us... At the stone, they chanted words from the book. The fracture opened, wider, light pouring out. Shapes emerged, shadowy forms, writhing. Elias shouted the closing rite. The light dimmed, shapes retreating. But not before one touched a man, turning him to ash. The town was saved, but scarred. Elias knew the beings waited. Their whispers faint but persistent, expanding further to approach word count, add more character backstories, daily life descriptions, horror scenes, and lore reveals in paragraphs. Clara had been a painter, her canvases full of dark landscapes. One showed the woods with eyes in the trees. Elias hung it on the wall, staring at it nightly. The eyes seemed to move, following him. Sarah brought flowers, trying to cheer him. They talked of normal things, harvests, weather, but always returned to the horror. Mr. Finley confessed he knew of the stones. "My grandfather was in a group that studied them. They vanished one night." Elias dug through old records, finding maps of underground tunnels. Perhaps the beings lived below. He explored a cave, lantern dim, walls dripped, echoes like breaths. Deep inside, he found altars, bones scattered, whispers boomed. "Welcome, kin, He fled, but brought back a shard of stone. It pulsed in his pocket. Warm. Nights lengthened, days shorter. Time felt wrong. Clocks stopping at midnight. People reported missing time, waking miles away. The Gothic air thickened, houses decaying faster, vines creeping in windows. Cosmic scale hit when stars changed. New ones appeared, forming evil patterns. Astronomers and papers noted anomalies. But Elias knew the truth. He wrote letters to outsiders, but mails returned unopened. Isolation grew. Town cut off by fog that never lifted. Inside, madness spread. Neighbors fought over shadows. Elias held on, anchoring to memories. But the descent called madness, whispering sweet nothings. The chapter ends with him standing at the fracture, ready for more. Chapter 10. The fracture. In reality, weeks had passed since Elias Thorne sealed the black stone in the woods. But peace did not last in Eldridge Hollow. The town tried to forget the storm and the strange happenings, blaming it all on bad weather. People fixed their roofs, planted new crops, and went back to their daily lives. But Elias knew better. The whispers were gone, yet something lingered in the air, like a bad smell that would not fade. He felt it in his bones, a pull, a wrongness that made colors seem dull and sounds echo oddly. The fracture he had closed was not gone. It had just hidden, waiting to split open wider. Elias spent his days at the library, burying himself in old books. He found more tales compressed into yellowed pages, stories of rifts between worlds. These fractures were tears in the fabric of what we see, places where the cosmic vastness leaked through. Gothic shadows clung to them, turning normal things into nightmares. Beings from beyond used them to peek in, their gaze twisting minds like wet cloth. Elias read of men who saw too much, their eyes bulging with visions of stars that screamed. He wondered if that was his fate. One morning, Elias woke to a crack in his bedroom wall. It was small, like a hairline split, but it had not been there before. He touched it, and a chill shot up his arm. The air near it shimmered, like heat over a fire. Outside, the sky was clear, but the town felt off. Birds flew in circles, confused. Dogs barked at nothing. Sarah came by, her face pale. "Mr. Thorne, things are breaking. Pos mill wheel split in half last night. No reason." Elias nodded. "It's starting again." The fracture spreads. They walked through town together. Houses showed tiny cracks in walls and windows. The church had a fissure running up its side, stone crumbling like bread. Father Merrick stood outside, praying. "The devil's work," he muttered. But Elias knew it was older than any devil, cosmic forces that cared nothing for good or evil. They were hunger, personified, vast entities that consumed realities like snacks. The Gothic horror was in the slow decay, the way familiar places turned strange and hostile. At the library, Mr. Finley was sorting books when a shelf groaned and tilted. Books fell, pages fluttering like dying birds. One landed open at Elias' feet, showing a drawing of a fractured, jagged line with darkness pouring out. Words below warned, "When the veil thins, madness follows." The old ones reached through, their touch bending light and mind. Elias picked it up, knowledge compressing in his thoughts. These beings lived in dimensions we could not grasp, folds of space where time ran backward. Their reality was a Gothic maze of endless halls, echoing with lost souls. Sarah helped clean up. "What do we do?" she asked. Elias thought of Clara's journal. "We find the source." The stone was one door. There must be more. They decided to search the hills that afternoon. Packing bread and water, they set out. The path was steeper now, rocks loose and shifting. Trees leaned in, branches like skeletal hands. As they climbed, the air grew thick, hard to breathe. Elias felt eyes on him, not from animals, but from the sky itself. They found a cave hidden behind vines. Inside, the walls glowed faintly, cracks running like veins. Water dripped, each drop echoing like a heartbeat. Sarah held the lantern high. "Look," she whispered. On the floor lay bones, old and yellow, arranged in patterns that matched the stone's carvings. Elias knelt, touching one. A vision hit him, ancient people dancing around fires, calling to the stars. They had opened the first fracture, inviting the beings in for power. But the power turned on them, twisting bodies into shapes that defied nature. The cave shook suddenly, dust falling. A crack widened on the wall, light seeping through, not normal light, but a sick green glow. Whispers returned, faint at first. "Feel the break. Reality yields. Double quotes. Sarah gasped. "I hear them." Elias pulled her back. The light pulsed, showing glimpses of another place, vast plains of black sand, under a sky with too many moons. Shapes moved there, huge and formless, slithering toward the crack. They ran out, hearts racing. Back in town, more breaks appeared. The bridge over the stream split, wood snapping like bones. People gathered, scared. "Earthquake?" someone asked. But there was no shake, just silent breaking. Elias told them the truth. It's from beyond, the fracture in reality. Old beings pushed through. Some laughed, calling him mad. Others remembered the storm and nodded. That night, Elias dreamed of the cosmic void. He floated in blackness, stars winking out one by one. A great eye opened, bigger than worlds, staring at him. It knew his name, his fears. "Join us. In the break. He woke, sweating, the crack in his wall wider. He could see through it now, not to the outside, but to a twisted version of his room, where furniture floated and walls bled shadows. Sarah knocked early. "The town's cracking apart. Come see." They went to the square. The fountain had split, water spilling in wrong directions, upward sometimes. Kids pointed, but adults hushed them. Father Merrick called a meeting in the church. "We must pray," he said. But as they knelt, the altar cracked, a line running through the cross. Gasps filled the air. Elias stood. "Prayer won't fix this. We need to seal the fractures." He led a group to the cave. Torches flickered, casting long shadows. Inside, the crack had grown, the green light brighter. Whispers filled the space, telling secrets of the beings. They were eternal, born in the Big Bang's echo, shaping universes like clay. But they grew bored, seeking new realms to corrupt. The Gothic element was there, decayed. They rotted everything they touched, turning beauty to ruin. One man, brave or foolish, touched the crack. His hand went through, and he screamed. When he pulled back, his fingers were gone, dissolved into mist. Panic spread. Elias found a symbol on the wall, from Clara's journal. He chanted words he barely understood, old tongue that burned his throat. The crack shrank a bit, light dimming, but it fought back, whispers turning to roars. "You cannot stop. The inevitable." They fled, but the man who touched it changed. His eyes glazed. skin pulling. By morning, he wandered town, babbling about endless falls through space. The fracture calls, ... Join the dance. People locked doors, fearing contagion. Elias pored over books, compressing more lore. Fractures appeared when worlds aligned, like eclipses but in higher dimensions. The beings used them to send tendrils, probing for weakness. Gothic horror built in the mind out, fear, seeing monsters in mirrors. Elias looked in his own mirror, seeing his face shift, eyes multiplying. Sarah stayed with him now, her home cracked too badly. They shared meals, talking late. Will it end? She asked. Elias shook his head, not without fight. Visions came more often, showing the being's home, Gothic spires of bone, rising from seas of ink. Creatures feasted on thoughts, growing fat, on human despair. A bigger fracture opened in the woods, near the original stone. Trees around it bent, leaves falling black. Animals gathered, staring blankly. Elias and Sarah went, finding the ground split wide, a chasm glowing. Looking down, they saw stars, not our stars, but alien ones, swirling in madness. Whispers boomed. Enter ... See truth. Sarah slipped, foot catching. Elias grabbed her, but felt the pull. The chasm wanted them, hunger like a living thing. They backed away, but the fracture sent waves, reality bending, making paths loop trees. Repeat. Town descended into chaos. Cracks everywhere, buildings leaning. People vanished into them, screams echoing from nowhere. Father Merrick disappeared during prayer, his Bible left split. Elias rallied survivors. We closed them all. But how? Knowledge from books, a ritual, using blood and symbols, to mend the veil. They gathered at the big fracture, under moonless sky. Elias drew symbols in dirt, chanting. Blood from pricked fingers sealed it. The chasm fought, spewing visions, cosmic wars, beings clashing, realities shattering like glass. Gothic echoes of lost loves, Clara calling from the void. As the ritual peaked, the fracture closed with a thunderclap. Silence fell, but Elias knew it was temporary. Deeper fractures waited, in minds and hearts. The town patched up, but scars remained. Elias watched the walls, waiting for the next crack. The descent loomed, madness whispering at edges. The beings plotted, their song building. Chapter 11. Descent into Madness. Eldritch Hollow tried to heal after the fractures closed, but the scars ran deep. Buildings stood patched with wood and stone, yet folks eyed the walls warily, waiting for new cracks. Elias Thorne felt the change most of all. His mind was a battlefield, thoughts twisting like vines in the wind. The whispers had faded, but echoes lingered, faint murmurs that stirred in quiet moments. He knew the ancient beings had not given up. They lurked in the shadows of reality, pushing at the edges. The descent into madness had begun, slow and sneaky, like poison in a well. Elias woke each day with a headache, visions flashing behind his eyes. He saw cosmic voids where stars burst like bubbles, and Gothic ruins floating in endless night towers, crumbling under their own weight, haunted by forms that were not quite alive. At the library, he stacked books with shaking hands. Mr. Finley noticed. "You all right, Thorne? You look like you've seen ghosts." Elias nodded, but inside, he fought the pull. Knowledge from old texts compressed in his brain. The beings fed on sanity, sipping it like wine, leaving husks of men babbling in corners. Sarah visited often, her own eyes shadowed. "I dream of falling," she said one morning over tea, "into pits that never end." With voices laughing, Elias shared his fears. "It's the descent. The old ones erode our minds, making us doubt what's real." They walked the town, seeing signs. Old Mrs. Baker stared at her oven, muttering about eyes in the flames. Young Tom from the farm chased shadows, swinging a stick at nothing. The Gothic horror wrapped the place in gloom, houses seeming taller and darker, fog clinging like a shroud. One afternoon, Elias found a new book in the library's back room, hidden behind dusty shelves. Its cover felt warm, like skin. Inside, pages yellow with age told of madness as a doorway. When the cosmic beings touched a mind, it cracked open, letting in truths too big for human heads. Victims saw the universe's bonestem as a loop, space as a web spun by spiders of light. Elias read hungrily, words burning into him. The descent starts with doubt, ends in surrender. He closed the book, but the ideas stayed, compressing. More lore, Cults had sped the process, chanting to invite the chaos. That evening, a scream echoed from the square. Elias ran out, finding Mr. Jenkins on the ground, eyes wide and wild. They crawled inside. He yelled, scratching at his skin. Red lines marked his arms. People gathered, whispering. Father Merrick arrived, cross in hand. "Calm, man, it's fever." But Jenkins laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Fever, it's the stars eating my thoughts." Elias knelt, seeing the madness in his eyes, pupils dilated, reflecting alien skies. This was the descent, Gothic in its personal terror, cosmic in its scale. They took Jenkins home, locking him in a room. His screams filled the night, tales of beings that danced on planets' graves. Elias listened from his house, the sounds seeping through walls. He felt it too, a itch in his brain, urging him to let go. Visions came unbidden, vast entities coiling through dimensions, their bodies made of thoughts stolen from worlds. They whispered promises, knowledge of all things, but at the price of self. Sarah knocked late, face tear-streaked. "He's not the only one. My PA talks to the walls now." They sat by the fire, flames casting twisted shadows. Elias shared the book's warnings. "Madness spreads like fire. We must fight it. Hold on to what's real." But even as he spoke, doubt crept in. Was Sarah real, or a dream from the void? The Gothic air thickened, room feeling smaller, air stale. The next day, more fell. The baker smashed her shop, claiming bread loaves, screamed. Kids drew strange symbols in the dirt, eyes glassy. Elias gathered survivors in the church. Father Merrick prayed, but his voice shook. "God save us from this plague." Elias spoke up. "It's not plague, it's the ancient ones, eroding our grip. Remember the fractures. This is the next step, their dreams leaking in, twisting minds." He proposed a plan, rituals from the books, to strengthen thoughts. They drew circles on the floor, chanting words that tasted bitter. For a moment, peace came. Jenkins quieted, sleeping soundly. But night brought worse. Elias dreamed of Clara, but twisted, her face melting, eyes multiplying. "Join me in the madness," she said, voice like the beings. He woke screaming, sweat cold. Madness hit Elias harder. Walking home, the path looped, leading back to the start. Trees whispered names he knew, lost friends, dead kin. "It's illusion," he told himself. But the pool grew. At home, mirrors showed wrong reflections, his body stretched, limbs too long. Gothic horror in the familiar turned foe. Sarah helped, grounding him. "Hold my hand, feel it's real." They shared stories of normal days, pushing back the chaos, but she slipped too, forgetting words, mid-sentence, staring blank. A group formed, the sane ones, meeting secretly. They shared knowledge. The beings thrived on isolation, so unity fought them. But betrayal came. One man, eyes mad, smashed their circle, laughing. "Why fight? The descent is bliss." Elias explored the woods, seeking answers. Fog hid paths, but he found the stone, sealed but humming. Touching it, visions flooded, cosmic libraries of stolen minds, shelves of thoughts writhing. The beings collected sanity, weaving it into webs. Back in town, chaos ruled. People wandered naked, painting symbols on skin. Father Merrick climbed the steeple, jumping with a smile. "I see eternity." Elias and Sarah barricaded in his house, madness knocking, visions assaulted, universes folding, beings feasting on gods. Gothic despair weighed, hope fading. In a lucid moment, Elias found a write in Clara's journal to burn the madness out. They gathered herbs, chanting over fire. Smoke cleared minds, whispers retreating, but it was brief. The descent continued, town a madhouse. Elias clung to Sarah, their bond a thin rope in the abyss. As stars wheeled oddly, he knew the final song approached. Madness was the bridge, leading to end. The beings watched, patient, their cosmic hunger endless. Chapter 12. The final song of eternity. Eldridge Hollow teetered on the brink, its people clinging to threads of sanity amid the growing chaos. Elias Thorne had fought the whispers, sealed the fractures, and pushed back the madness, but he felt the end drawing near. The ancient beings, vast and uncaring, had woven their influence deep into the town's soul. Now, their final act approached, a song that would echo through eternity, unraveling all that was. The air hummed with it, a low vibration that made teeth ache and hearts skip. Elias knew this was no ordinary tune. It was cosmic in scale, a melody born from dying stars and black voids. Gothic in its mournful decay, promising oblivion wrapped in beauty. Elias sat in his dim house, Clara's journal open on his lap. Pages fluttered without wind, words shifting, like living things. He read of the song, knowledge compressed from scattered tales. It was the being's call to awaken fully, a hymn that bent reality into folds, merging worlds. Those who heard it whole would dissolve, bodies and minds melting into the void. Sarah slept nearby, her breaths shallow, dreams plagued by shadows. She had grown thin, eyes hollow, but her spirit held strong. "We stop it," she had said earlier. Elias wanted to believe, but doubt gnawed like rats in the walls. Morning brought a strange calm. The sky hung low, clouds swirling in patterns that hurt to watch. Townfolks moved like puppets, faces blank, humming snatches of melody. Elias walked the streets, seeing the Gothic ruin. Houses sagged further, roofs caving in slow motion, vines choking doors like throats. The church stood empty, its bells tolling on their own, notes wrong and dissonant. Father Merrick's body lay below the steeple, twisted in a smile, as if he had welcomed the end at the library. Books lay scattered, pages torn and fluttering. Mr. Finley was gone, vanished like others into the growing haze. Elias searched shelves, finding a final tom leather bound, warm to touch. It spoke of the song's origin, born in the heart of chaos, where the first beings sang to shape the cosmos, but over eons it turned sour, a dirge for lost empires. Singing it back could repel the entities, but the cost was high. One soul to carry the tune into the void. Sarah joined him, carrying bread gone stale. "I hear it now, the full song. It's beautiful and terrible." Elias nodded. The melody filled his head, notes like silk threads pulling him apart. Visions came, cosmic expanses where galaxies spun to the rhythm, planets crumbling in harmony. Gothic echoes mixed in ghosts of Clara dancing in ruined halls, her form fading to dust. They decided to act. The song peaked at midnight, under a sky aligned with alien stars. Elias and Sarah gathered remnant herbs, symbols, a shard from the stone. They headed to the woods, path twisting unnaturally. Trees sang along, leaves rustling in tune. The clearing held the black stone, now humming loudly. Cracks sealed but pulsing. Others followed, drawn by the pull-mad survivors humming fragments. Jenkins led them, eyes feverish. "We join the chorus," he cried, but Elias shouted, "No, we fight." Chaos erupted, people turning on each other, fists flying in the fog. At the stone, the song swelled, air vibrating. The beings emerged in visions, vast forms uncoiling, mouths opening to sing. Their bodies spanned dimensions, tentacles weaving notes into reality's fabric. The ground shook, sky ripping open, stars falling like rain. Elias began the words from the tome burning his tongue. Sarah joined, voice steady. The melody clashed, sparks flying from the stone. Visions assaulted, eternity unfolding, time as a river looping back. Beings feasting on souls. The group split, some surrendered, bodies dissolving into light, joining the song. Others fought, holding the line. Jenkins lunged at Elias, mad grin, wide let it come. Sarah pushed him away, but he grabbed her, pulling toward the stone. Elias chanted louder, song building to crescendo. The beings roared, cosmic anger shaking earth. Gothic despair hit hard, memories of Clara. Town lost, life meaningless. But Elias held, pouring his soul into the tune. The stone shattered, explosion of light. The song peaked, then broke. Beings recoiled, forms shrinking back to voids. Silence fell, heavy and pure. Elias stood alone, Sarah gone, dissolved in the fight. The town lay quiet, survivors dazed. The Ancient One slept again, song silenced. But in his heart, Elias heard faint echoes. Eternity waited, the final note lingering. He walked into the woods, humming softly, ready to guard forever. The horror ended, but its shadow stretched long.